Well, how's it going, everyone? This is Mitchell Mander here, and welcome to another review of Pokemon 2019. Today we're going to be covering Episode 11, and it is finally a Koharu focus episode. Something that was definitely needed, especially since Koharu hasn't gotten a whole lot of screen time in this series so far. And I can say that this was a pretty solid episode overall. I think it was better than episodes like Episode 8 and 9, as there's a little bit more substance in this episode, in my opinion at least. But overall, I'd say it was good, but not the best episode in this series. And unfortunately, it's going to be overshadowed by next week's episode, which is Lance vs. Leon. But still, it was still a pretty solid episode in my opinion. Anywho, before I get into the review, if you like this type of content, if you like Pokemon anime reviews, be sure to like and subscribe as I cover this series on a weekly basis or whenever the episodes come out. Anyways, on to the review. So I like how this episode is pretty much focused on the Sakuragi lab in Koharu's home, though she does go to school for a little bit, but I like how we're not really traveling anywhere. We're kind of taking a step back and we're focusing on the characters and the Pokemon that are at the Sakuragi lab, and then Koharu was the big focus in this episode, obviously. But I do like how the episode starts off with Koharu waking up, and she won't get up, and Yamper has to go get her mom, and I do like the fact that we're actually seeing her mom and she has a younger brother in the series. We haven't seen them previously, so I do like the fact that we're seeing more of Koharu's family. And I do think I like the fact that we do see this. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Sun and Moon, kind of like how the whole family aspect in Sun and Moon worked. So this was pretty nice, and I like the fact that Yamper couldn't get her up, so Yamper went and got her mom, and basically was like, hey, well, if you don't wake up early enough, well, I can't braid your hair, and that's what actually wakes Koharu up. And I do like the fact that we see quite a bit of Koharu's personality in this episode, especially in this scene, but we get to see her develop a little bit in this episode. But one thing to note in the beginning of this episode is that Yamper is noted to love Koharu the most. However, Koharu pretty much acts coldly to Yamper and pretty much to any Pokemon, and sometimes the others. And I do like the fact that they point this out, and this is something that kind of is pointed out later in the episode as well. But anyways, I do like the fact that we have a little bit of focus here on Koharu and her family life. Now we cut to a short scene in the Sakuragi lab with the Pokemon area where Ash and Gou are basically watching their Pokemon. We get a little nice scene with Dragonite being the big lovable oaf it is, and it's hugging a Scyther and Strantler that Gou caught in previous episodes, which was a pretty nice scene. We also get a scene of the Tallow that Gou caught was attacking as Wurmple, in which they start to evolve, in which Gou, the main reason that he caught 3 of them was so that he could get Beautifly and Dustox. Unfortunately, they all evolve into the same Cascoon, so they're all going to be Dustox. Too bad for Gou. But anyways, we cut back to Ash and Gou running outside to Koharu before she heads to school. And basically, saying, hey, I want to show you my Dragonite. Hey, I want to show you the Pokemon I caught. Hey. But Koharu has to run off. And that's when we get Ash asking Gou, hey, isn't Koharu interested in Pokemon? Which, again, emphasizes the fact that a lot of people think that Koharu is cold, that she doesn't seem interested in Pokemon, and Gou reiterates that she seems cold towards Pokemon nowadays, and that people act differently towards Pokemon, including Ash and Gou. So I thought this was a really interesting scene. So the episode kind of splits up into 2 different parts here. So since we're on the topic of Koharu, I'm going to talk about her first. So she heads off to school, and while she's at school, the teacher actually mentions that she wants to know what everybody wants to do when they grow up. What are they going to do after they're done with school and they become adults? And there's a kid in the back that doesn't know what he wants to do, but Koharu goes next, but every kid assumes that since her father's a professor, she's going to follow in his footsteps. And Koharu, she seems a bit undecided, and she's unsure of what she wants to do, and that's when a lot of the kids are like, do you not like Pokemon? Kind of emphasizing the fact that she's cold towards Pokemon. And then we cut to a scene where I assume she's on break, in which her mother brings her lunch because she forgot it. And that's when she kind of talks about what happened in school to her mother, in which we get to reveal that her mother's actually an illustrator, and that it essentially was her father that actually helped her out and helped her decide what she wanted to do in life, because she got to a point where she was unsure of what she wanted to do. So her father, Professor Sakuragi, when they were, I assume, it looks like they were like in college or something, basically recommended to her mother to continue pursuing her dreams, which I thought was a pretty interesting scene, and it's kind of different. You wouldn't expect Pokemon to do something like this, where there's a character that essentially wanted to draw manga for a living. So a very interesting thing that the Pokemon anime did. I thought that was pretty cool. So for the other plot in this episode involving Gengar, in which Gengar appears in the, what I presume to be the basement of the Sakuragi Laboratories, which Renji and his Magnemite, which was revealed in this episode, are working on something down in the basement. And that's when Gengar, appearing from a mirror, moves in and attacks the two, and pretty much takes them down pretty easily. Ash and Gou eventually enter the laboratories, and eventually run into this Gengar. And Gou, being Gou, attempts to catch Gengar. Unfortunately for him, he throws a million Pokeballs at Gengar, but it doesn't work at all, because Gengar is too strong. In which they basically are chasing him around the laboratory. And that's when Koharu, coming home from school, runs into Yamper, which has been battling the Gengar, but Gengar appears and tries to attack Koharu, in which Yamper pretty much goes into protect mode. Ash and Gou come in to save Koharu, but eventually get trapped by Gengar, and that's when Professor Sakuragi runs out and tells Koharu to command Yamper to use Spark. He tries to do it himself, but because Yamper is too focused on protecting Koharu, he tells her to do it, but she's never battled before and she doesn't know what to do. But she follows his instructions and it works, and pretty much Gengar's taken right out. And yeah, Koharu won her first Pokemon battle just like that. Ash and Gou could not defeat the Gengar apparently, so the champion of Alola was beaten by a girl that's never battled in a Pokemon battle before. Interesting. But all jokes aside, the episode concludes with Koharu and Yamper going to bed, and Gengar plotting his revenge against the Uchiha clan. Oh, wait a second, wrong series. Sorry about that, guys. So I gotta say, I'm pretty happy that we finally got a Koharu focus episode. And it was good for the most part. Since Koharu is just a support character and not a main character, she should be a main character. But because she's a support character, she's criminally underutilized in this series. She just does not get enough screen time. She usually appears at the beginning or end of episodes, and sometimes she doesn't appear at all, which is very disappointing. Before this episode, the most screen time she got was in the first two episodes, and then after that, she pretty much dropped off. And that's, yeah, I'm not really happy with that. So we finally got an episode that focused on her for the most part. And it was really nice. We learned a little bit more about her personality. We learned about her family life, how she has a younger brother, which was revealed, and her mother, which was revealed in this episode as well. We learned a little bit more about her mother, how she's an illustrator now, and it was her father that basically influenced her, kind of pushed her in a way. She made the decision on her own, but she decided to become an illustrator, and it was kind of thanks to her father. And then they got together, so that was actually pretty cool. We also got to see her school life for a little bit, which was pretty neat. It was also kind of different. It was a little different from the Pokemon school, so it was actually really nice to see this. And hopefully we get more episodes focused on Koharu. Hopefully she makes more appearances, because I think she definitely needs it and she deserves it. In addition to the Koharu focus in this episode, I actually like the fact that we basically stayed in one spot for the most part in this episode. Pretty much we were primarily in Vermilion City for this episode, at the Sakuragi Labs for most of the episode, which gave off some Sun and Moon vibes with the family focus in this episode and the school focus for a little bit with Koharu. So it was a nice little throwback to Sun and Moon, but a little different too. I also like the fact that Ash and Gou were able to basically see their Pokemon that they caught and see how they interact with one another. And hopefully Ash's Dragonite just doesn't stay here. He goes with them, especially in the next episode when Ash and Gou head to Galar to watch the match between Lance and Leon. Now, while I like the focus on Koharu in this episode, I gotta say, I am kind of let down that they didn't go into why Koharu is so cold towards Pokemon nowadays. Like, why is she so cold towards Pokemon? Did something happen to her? Did an accident happen? Is it kind of similar to Lily's situation where something happened to her? Or does it have to do with her father being a Pokemon professor? And she just kind of got used to it, or because she was around Pokemon all the time, she just grew cold towards them. I'm really curious as to know why she's so cold towards Pokemon. It'd be nice to see in a future episode what happened and why she's so cold towards Pokemon. Additionally, I honestly didn't really like the Gengar plotline in this episode very much. It kind of felt like it was very similar to previous episodes with Gengar in the Pokemon anime. So to be completely honest, I didn't really care so much about this part of the episode. It would have been nice if maybe Ash or Koharu caught this Gengar instead of Go. I'm kind of sick of him catching all the Pokemon. It was really nice to see Ash catch Dragonite in last week's episode. But, maybe Koharu will catch this Gengar later on because it's still seemingly going after them. I did like the Naruto nod at the end, but overall I didn't really care so much about this plotline in the episode. So that's all I got for this week's review. So overall, I thought this was a pretty solid episode. There are a few things I didn't like, but overall, I like the focus on Koharu in this episode, and hopefully we get more episodes focus on her, and hopefully she starts traveling with Ash and Gou in some episodes. I would really like to see that. So I'm going to give this episode a 7 out of 10. So, solid episode overall. Anywho, guys out there, what did you think of this episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Post your thoughts in the comment section down below, and be sure to like and subscribe. And I will talk to you guys later.